Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. Sign up for a 1-week free trial, no credit card required, for access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hello, MJ friends, checking in on the Canadian sector here, and we're going to look at WEED, APH, ACB, EMC, SPRWF. I'm going to look at that instead of FIRE because we don't have much history on FIRE, and now we're hitting levels that we need previous price history from SPRWF and HMMJ to wrap it up. So WEED is at a very key support here to start next week. We had a wall of support at 780 because it is a critical level, because if we lose that level, we lose the uptrend where we then start forming lower highs and lower lows. So if we break 780, which I am going to assume that we are going to, if we break 780, I'm looking down at the next support of 741. And this is just indicating that we're not ready to change this trend yet, in my opinion. So we're seeing the little run up into the earnings. We're seeing the sell the news reaction to earnings, and we're seeing lower highs and lower lows, closes at the lows of the day, on the verge of a bearish MACD cross. And looking at the weekly time frame, this is a weak bounce attempt. What we have to see for this trend to change is a higher low to form now on this pullback compared to 658, and then we need to see a higher high to break the high that we recently saw of 881. So this is a potential opportunity, and I'm going to be looking for an entry on this consolidation if we break 780, and I'm going to be patient because the closer we get to 658, the less risk I have on an entry, because I would put my stop loss just below this level. Let's say I put my stop loss at 649 under 650 psychological. So I want to wait and be as close to this support level as possible. Let's say I get in at $7, my risk would be 42 cents, or actually if my stop is 49, my risk would be 51 cents to the downside, if that is where my entry were going to be. But that's looking a little bit further out. First, we have to see if 780 holds or not, and then we have to watch to see about 741. So the weekly time frame not showing enough signs for me of a trend reversal. Keeping an eye on this MACD, it's getting close, and I do anticipate a higher low to form. So I will be looking for an entry on that higher low. But from there, the question is going to be, do we just set another lower high and see this range tighten up a bit, or do we see the bulls able to break 881 and turn things around? And I am using seasonality a lot in my analysis, and that is just cyclical from what I've seen in the U.S. sector. I do believe the Canadian MJ sector is going to sync in, SYNC, sync up with that correlation of the U.S. sector in terms of seeing the fall and the winter with some bullish action. So the closer we get to the end of the summer, the more I am scouting a bullish entry. So APH, much weaker than TO, never broke to higher highs. We had a horizontal resistance line here, an ascending triangle pattern, which broke bearish, increasing bear volume following WEED and the sector down, looking at 511 as support. If we break 511, that's essentially the same as WEED breaking 741. So you can always compare charts and say, okay, where is the initial pullback low that we had on APH in the mid-June? And we look at WEED and compare and say, okay, 741 is the equivalent to APH at 511. So we know if APH breaks 511 while WEED is still holding 741, that makes WEED a bit stronger in the short term comparatively. So APH, if we do break that 511 level, I'm looking at 5 psychological, 498, 478, and then on down to 455. So the weekly time frame never got over exponential resistance. That alone is enough to keep me out of a trade. After seeing so many rejections from exponential resistance, that is a bare minimum for me in terms of that needs to become support for me to be looking for a bullish entry. Same thing though, we will be looking for a higher low to form. This 50-week moving average support is going to be just over $5 this coming week. We'll see if this level holds as it did on the last pullback, and we're going to see a tightening range between the 50-week support and the exponential resistance, and sometime in the next 3 weeks, we're going to see a close above or below one of these levels to indicate short-term direction. So not ready yet on APH as well. ACB weak as well. We're looking down at support of 203 and then right down to 190. I don't like APH. The weekly chart is a lot weaker. I am not looking for a longer-term entry in APH because of this. Fundamentally, that may be a different story, but all I care about is price action and how the market is perceiving these companies. And I know that it is perceiving weed and APH as more bullish than ACB. So I am going to be looking to those other two names instead of ACB because of this fact. So we're still rejecting from exponential resistance, heading to lower lows, and there is not a ton of support down here. As you can see, we skip essentially from $2 as the next support down to $1.90, and that is a 5% drop before the next support. So not a scenario where I want to be in bullish positions here, and being very patient, as I keep saying in all these videos, because I am looking for longer term entries, and ideally I want to time it so that when I make my entry, I am profitable right out of the get-go, and it's much easier to manage a trade when you are profitable right away and you're looking longer term. And it's a lot less stressful, a lot more play in terms of where you can put your stop loss levels, where your sell targets are. That's the ideal scenario to be in. EMC is also extremely weak. I am not going to be looking for an entry in EMC because of the lack of previous price history, which equals a lack of support. So I'm looking down here at 152 support, 153, 153, break 152. We're going to see the shorts jump all over this again because it's going to be a new all-time low. Then we'll be looking at 150, 145, 140. Psychological round numbers on the way down. Bears are in complete control of EMC, and it looks like more downside is entirely likely if we do break this 152 level, and then we might lose all moving average supports on the weekly time frame. SPRWF, so a sell the news reaction, no surprise, we've been calling for this for months, and this isn't me saying, look at us, you should have followed us, told you so, we're right, you're wrong. This is an example of learning from a mistake. So if you're holding here and making an observation, okay, this is what happens when news is well known in advance, it's anticipated, the market buys in before the news, knowing the news that is going to come eventually, and then once it comes, we see profit taking, and there is nobody buying on that news coming out, although some poor souls bought that first day, but really everybody has already bought in before that news is coming, and anybody buying after the news is late money and making a really bad entry. So this really is no surprise to me personally because I've been trading the MJ sector in the US. This is 7 years now, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this sell the news reaction where news has been known in advance and we see this happen. This is literally hundreds of times. So it's not a surprise, and it's a learning experience. If you're long and you're saying, oh, you know, I'm not touching my shares, that's fine. That's your strategy. That's what you can do. But if you are looking to be able to capitalize on scenarios, you are selling the news and you are selling that pop, and you are able to reload literally 25% lower. If I have, 2,000 shares, let's say I have 10,000 shares, I sell it on the pop with the poor souls that are buying in at a really bad time, and then I reload, I can add an extra 2,500 shares now just by making this play. So it's patterns, it's knowing psychologically what the market is anticipating, and it happens time and time again. So the only time that the market is going to react to news in a significant bullish way and keep those gains is when it is surprise, when the market has no idea that this news is coming, and that is the scenario where we see a bullish reaction and a strong move to the upside, not when the news has been anticipated for months and to a point where people are really sick of waiting and they want to get out as soon as they can to perhaps make their money, put their money somewhere that's working for them in terms of getting profit rather than slowly fading. So SPRWF here is down at the lows. We are looking at fire potentially testing $1. If we break $1 on fire and that becomes resistance, that's going to be significant psychologically. So here's support on SPRWF is 80 cents. There will be a decent oversold bounce play, in my opinion, especially if we get one more red day to the downside. If WEED breaks 780 and we see the sector follow along with a red day on Monday, then we can be looking at fire and SPRWF for an entry for even just a short-term trade, looking for, 5 to 10 cents to the upside here. 5 to 10% should be an easy bounce if we do see another little push to the downside on SPRWF. The weekly time frame, the next support after 80 is 77 and then down to 65. So we are seeing a significant pullback. But that being said, considering where we are coming from, it's not all that significant. And we can look at the monthly time frame to get a little bit of a different perspective to see where we are coming from and how it compares to previously. And you can see this is very normal, healthy consolidation after the bull move we've seen to the upside. So there's no real red flags in terms of the long-term trend, but in terms of the short term, obviously there were plenty of red flags seeing all that profit taking. So scout a bullish entry. If we see another flush to the downside and we see SPRWF in the 70-cent range and we see FIRE in the 90-cent range, I do believe that that's going to be a nice entry for a short-term bounce, looking for 5 to 10% to the upside. Checking in on HMMJ, no sign of the bulls. Lower highs, lower lows, looking at support of 830. The low of Friday was 836. And then we're looking down at 821, the all-time low. Weekly time frame, have not seen 2 green weeks in a row in a long time, hardly ever. And exponential resistance driving the price to the downside. No sign of the bulls. A third of this holding is in the U.S., so I will be more interested in HMMJ the closer we get to the fall because of that U.S. cyclical correlation where we see strength in the fall and in the winter. So I am scouting WEED, APH, HMMJ, and as the way it stands right now, WEED is the strongest on the daily time frame, APH is stronger on the weekly time frame and weaker on the daily time frame, and HMMJ is nowhere near me being comfortable with a long-term entry yet at this point. So that's where we stand in the sector. Very, very patient, a lack of short-term catalysts, and we're just patiently waiting for the seasons to wear on and for time to get closer to legalization in 2018, and that is the game plan. This is a really strong test of your patience in terms of finding other things to trade. I know I keep saying it, but we had so many people join with the chart guys when the Canadian MJ sector was booming back in November. There was tons of money to the upside, and then all of that stopped, and we changed trends, and it was a lot more difficult to make bullish trades. So people learned technical analysis, prepared themselves to be able to trade any kind of market. As long as you can chart it, you can trade it, and they were ready to hit the ground running with the cryptocurrency space and really making some nice profits that will eventually find their way back into the Canadian sector. But just an example of really recognizing a change in trend, not trying to force trades, furthering investing in yourself. Skip investing in these companies while they're going down. Invest in yourself and invest in your education to prepare you for bullish markets like this. They don't come around often. I've seen 3 in the past 4 years. The US MJ sector did it, the Canadian MJ sector did it, and the cryptocurrency sector did it. And these are all 3 sectors that have very little price history or little history at all. And they are really hot items in terms of the general public talking about them and excitement and the potential and the profit and all that. So really just euphoric, big time moves to the upside, which don't come around too often, but when they do come around, being able to be prepared to capitalize on them is very significant. And I've already said in multiple videos, I feel like my first 7 years of trading stocks prepared me for the cryptocurrency boom that we just recently saw. And obviously the marijuana booms have been prepared for those as well. So that's my little rant there at the end. I appreciate you watching. We'll check back in next weekend. And remember, sitting on the sidelines in cash can be a good thing.